Hello everyone, it's Wednesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Obiajulu or Labisi Ugbo, and with me are the ladies. Hi Maria.
Hello.
Excellent morning, Maria.
Excellent morning to you too.
How you doing today?
I'm great, I'm fine, I'm happy to be here. I have no complaints. I'm just grateful to God. Yesterday was National Sons Day. So on National Daughters Day, I put up a short video on my daughter. And National Sons Day, I didn't even remember. And I think that's the little ways that men somehow feel marginalized when we celebrate Women's Day, Daughters Day, everything. And then when it comes to them, we don't remember. So this is a shout out to my son. I love you. I'm proud of you.
Please, how did you hear of that National Sons Day, National Daughters Day? I saw your video and I was like, where is Miriam getting all these things from?
I guess I'm just interested in things like that.
Wow. Wow. How are you doing, Nima?
I'm fine and in pains. I got my second shot yesterday.
Oh.
Vaccine, and as usual, tough girl forgot to take painkillers until very late in the day. So I mean, it seems like they hit a nail on my hand. I've taken painkillers this morning. I still feel tired.
Sorry.
My banter, so good, so you can get good. I did a little act of kindness, and I didn't expect the loads of goodness that I got yesterday evening. Thank you, Mr. Zip. A special. That's it.
That's it.
What is the... Oh, okay. I thought you were going to tell
us the details of the good that you did.
Finish me. So, Ajoke had a little itch and I thought it was helping Ajoke, so I spread and bought from Ajoke and bought something from Mr. Zip. He didn't understand well. I've not done that in a long time. I just, you know, we get from him, we don't have to give. And he really touched him. And he came home yesterday with a full bag of the kind of things I like, what I'm wearing right now. Shoes.
To tell you thank you,
so
right?
Thank you, Mr. Zip.
Thank you, Mr. Zip.
Thank you, Mr. Zip.
Why? Mr. Zibiri is short for, is what we're shorting for Zip.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, I was wondering who is this Mr. Zip? No, in my head, we don't know. Human beings, you don't predict them. In my head, I was like, who is this Mr. Zip?
There's only one now. There's only one that knows me.
I had a very busy day yesterday. I got home. After the show, I went to do my podcast recording. I record on Tuesdays. And then I got home and I realized, so somebody made an order for some product. And I realized that all the batch of new products that I had not sorted them for over 3 weeks now because I've been working back to back. So I now brought everything out into my room. All over the bed, there were clothes. The kids came back, met me. We were doing homework. I was eating. I was sorting. It was just... And then by 10 p.m., I had to ask my housekeeper, please get me big lap of chicken. I did not kiss somebody. Let me eat, drink tea, and go to bed. And that was what happened yesterday. So this morning, I'm feeling a little fuzzy. Yeah. But it's all good.
It's the life of a mother. I told someone I'm a full-time housewife.
Yeah.
I'm a full-time mother.
That's the major thing.
It's a side gig.
Yeah. So true.
I like that.
Thank you, ladies. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, we'll take the newspaper reviews. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Welcome back. So let's start with the nation. Daughter speaks on police chief slain by Lagos mob. Hooded gunmen abduct ex-military chief in Lekki. Shiites, police in Abuja bloody clash. Supreme Court Justice Oseji dies at 67. North's elders to governors negotiate 2023 power shift. More cracks in PDP over zoning. CBN places 1 million limit on E-naira single transaction. Who has a story in the nation?
Yes,
go ahead. Okay.
I want to quickly just talk about the police officer, the CSP, who was killed in a solo. His daughter, the eldest of the family, Rahmat Abonde, she's a 400-level law student. She was just recounting how, you know, grieving and expressing how loved and special their dad was and how this loss has affected the family. But she got to a point where she said, who is going to be there for us now? Is it government or the police? Who will look after our mother? So I read into the story deeply. And it's sad that up until now, there's not been an official, contact from the police to the family, according to this story in The Nation. And it was until yesterday at an event that the governor spoke about this killing also, and it was until yesterday he directed the CP, the Commissioner of Police in Lagos, to fish out the killers. I expect, you know, there are ways that these things are done, and it's the same for our military, you know. Let family members even be able to trust that there's hope at the end. Usually when a breadwinner dies in course of duty like this, in Nigeria, the family is scattered, they are confused, whereas there should be insurance, things that, you know, they can believe that things will work normal. Even though they're grieving, they don't have to worry about the next day. Grief is enough. Grief can take you a lifetime of slow, can distract you for a lifetime. But if you can take care of other things, you know, it will be easier. Make this loss a bit easier for family members. You know, for her to express this in an interview is because that's the situation at home. Her mom right now is confused. Her mom is still calling friends and family. Friends of her dad are the ones who, you know, informed the family of the killing. Till now, there's not been an official visit. Official, you know, entourage directed to inform family and, you know, plan with family what will happen. You know, it's always important. His family is his survivors, and that's the most important in this.
So, yes, I have the Northern elders, you know, speaking to the governors. Yesterday I took the story on how the Northern governors had come together to respond to the conversation on power shift come 2023 by Southern governors. And the Northern Elders Forum are saying, see, let's not, the governors shouldn't allow this to degenerate into something that will tear the country apart. That this is a time for them to sit down and find a more, you know, productive way of having this conversation. And that, that the North is not saying, you know, that the North is only pointing out what is right by constitution, but it's also important that the politicians understand that there's a political way of doing things. There's a whole political process, and they must go through that process in order to achieve what the different, you know, demands are concerning the shift in presidency 2023. Of course, we know that they got lots of criticisms from different groups. On their comments. Even the Middle Belt Forum criticized them, or Hanez Ndigo criticized them, saying people are sitting down talking about presidency and power shift when you should be concentrating on the banditry and things going on in that region. Afenifere, you know, are backing the shift of power to the south. So really, it's asking them find a better way to have this conversation and let it not be them versus us situation.
Awesome. So police in Lagos yesterday confirmed the abduction of retired Air Vice Marshal, AVM, Sikiru Oladimiji, a former chief of logistics of the Nigerian Air Force. He was abducted yesterday in his work site. So according to the story, the driver stepped aside to go fix the car while they were working, and then kidnappers got in there, whisked him away through Blenko Aja, and then went into the waterways through Ikorodu. And when he came back, he was one that, you know, reported to the police. When he got back, he saw that they had struggled. The boss had left his glasses on the floor. Everywhere was scattered. And he was lamenting. There was also another report of a pastor, RCCG pastor, who was also abducted, and they went through the waterways. So there's this suspicion that people who are coming through the waterways are the ones carrying out all of these attacks. They had they took the pastor and the wife. They had taken back the wife, dropped her in front of our house, and requested for 50 million from 100 million, saying that they have their eyes on her, they are watching her. She must not make any report. This is
so we had the waterways kidnapped during Ambodi's tenure in Lagos. Twice.
Yes, I remember. Yes,
and the robberies. The waterways robbery, Agbara, Festac, and Ikorodu, and then the school kidnap. So I think this is something that the Lagos State should quickly curb.
Okay, so I've taken that story in the point. So let me just say that concerning this particular case, they're saying that 5 police teams have been set up to rescue him. 2 Marine Special Operations, 3 special land ops have been put together, and the police has vowed that they would find the victim and return him safely. But they are on it, and they're doing everything to make sure, but they are unwilling to give details of what they're doing so as not to compromise investigations now.
Okay, moving on now to the New Telegraph. 93% Nigerian children exposed to online risks report. recover 2.659 trillion to Federation account, NAITI. Being debts owed by 77 oil gas companies, Senate orders oil gas firms to relocate to operational bases. 2022 budget, reps peg oil benchmark at $57. Approve 4.89 trillion loan from the federal government. Why we use NURTW for elections, INEC. E-voting, reps set up 7-man committee to meet Senate. Study links air pollution to 6 million premature births. Who has a story?
Okay, major headline quickly. The Executive Secretary of NAITI, that's the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Dr. Oji Ogbonaya, has revealed that 77 oil and gas companies are owing the Federation 2.659 trillion naira, which should be recovered. He broke it down in how they are owed. He said 6.48 billion is, okay, that's the amount in dollars. That the breakdown shows 143.99 million dollars is owed to the petroleum as petroleum profit taxes, and 1.0 billion as company income taxes, and $201.69 million as education taxes. Others include 18.46 million and some in euro as VAT, 2.23 million as withholding tax, royalties as we have $403 million as royalty on oil, and several other amounts of money. This money can help us avert, our $2.68 billion that we owe in 2020. And, and service setting other basic infrastructure rather than looking at borrowing. So I think that this particular government have always resorted to loans and borrowing.
Easy way
and
out.
Before we know, it's already approved as a medium-term expenditure framework by the National Assembly. The National Assembly should force government now to do what is important. Padi government is why somebody can owe this amount of money and we are still going to borrow. So we don't have padis. We cannot have money somewhere and be borrowing. We should do whatever it takes to recover this amount of money. Stop doing padi.
Yeah, so INEC has said it has a memorandum of understanding with National Union of Road Transport Workers, and it's a 4-year agreement which is to help them move election materials on election day. It says they're unable to move those materials to over 800,000 registration areas, over 1 million polling units without the help of NURT. And, they were also asking that NURT provide INEC with roadworthy vehicles and also in good time for the timely movement of election material. NURT leadership also asked on their own side for insurance cover of their members on election duties. They also mentioned that sometimes, their staff, employees are being open to risks, that sometimes they are attacked and things like that. They need security operatives on the road with them as well when they are doing these jobs. And that some EOs, this is what I found really interesting, they are sabotaged by some EOs who make money, reduce the agreed number of vehicles at the last minute, pocket the monetary difference, leading to delays and overuse of accepted vehicles and drivers. And he also suggested that if unions are to be engaged, they should be assigned responsibilities that correspond with their areas of specialization. And it's important that we have this sort of information, because usually when we hear of NURT and elections, we see them as just a bunch of thugs that are being used. But this is an official agreement with INEC on making sure that materials get to the different areas that need to get on election day. So let me I found that very insightful.
This very important story. So they said 93% of Nigerian children are exposed to online risks. So according to the Nigerian Communications Commission, that's the NCC, they carried out a report and found that children between ages of 11 to 16, 93% of them are always online and are misusing technology without appropriate supervision. Also, children from ages 4 to 10 make up 45% of children who also use the internet, but for those ones, they still have, supervision from their parents. And then they went ahead to carry out a report. They, tested about 7,013 respondents, and they found that teachers constituted 5,681, representing 81%. Children were about it was the children that represented 81%. And what they found is, because we always allow these kids to have access to the internet, a lot of them are becoming very addicted to using the internet. So we as parents need to find a way to ensure that there's strict supervision. If they have to do work, the schools, they should go through the school portal. So some of our children have assignments that they go through Google Classroom and all that. But for children to have gadgets, have their own phones at a very early age, is something that we need to look into.
Interesting conversation, because just quickly, let me just add to that interesting conversation, because just recently one of the founders of Instagram was talking about Instagram for children, and was saying that they had to hold off on that and provide parents with better tools on how to guide their children and protect their children from the risk of using social media.
The newspaper reviews continue after this break. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Welcome back. So, Enima, quickly take your story.
The study that links pollution to 6 million premature births in the New Telegraph is what I wanted to take. So, according to that report, researchers abroad in the US did the report, and they found air pollution to be responsible for 6 million premature births and 3 million underweight babies. So preeclampsia is a condition where I know that the mother is hypertensive, and because of that, there's shortage of oxygen, and usually the babies come small. So this is something you can avoid if you don't have the natural condition of preeclampsia, by being in a well-ventilated environment. The report is simply saying this advice should be attached to prenatal care, and as lectures and advices given to pregnant women. They also linked it to cooking indoors, some form of pollution. The ones that we can manage is get your generator out of the house, make sure your cooking area is well ventilated and all of that. While you're pregnant, make sure you can take care of those things yourself. So basically just advice. Okay,
moving on now to the Punch. Federal government releases fresh debtors list. November, 77 oil firms owe 2.66 trillion. Saraki Bemisola tackle Kwara governor over demolition of local government's library. Shiites clash with soldiers. Police in Abuja allege 8 members killed. Restructuring, only solution, must be done before 2023, Afenifere insists. Vaccination, Senate to probe maltreatment of Nigerian travelers in Ghana. Police comb waterways, others to free abducted retired general in Lagos. Develop Ondo Seaport, decongest Apapa gridlock, Akeredolu tells federal government. It's an insult comparing me to hush puppy, says jailed Invictus Obi. Miriam, take that story.
Yes, so we know the convicted fraudster Obinwane Okeke, also known as Invictus Obi. He's currently serving a 10-year jail term in a United States prison for $11 million fraud. And he was asked the question about his similarity with Hush Puppy. I'm going to just read what he says. He says, it's insulting. Hush Puppy and I are not on the same level. So Hush Puppy could never achieve what I achieved. Yes. He cannot run a business, and we are not similar in any way. He was out to please the crowd. I was out to change lives, create jobs, and conquer business world. I have done so much for my community back home with my charity foundation. Which lives has he helped? Nobody.
Hey.
So he was also asked, does he dislike Hush Puppy? He says, I've never met him. I don't dislike him. But I find this continued comparison very annoying. Our impact on the world is very different. I've made much more positive contribution to the society than he has. I took this story because it's important for us to be aware of how you made this money, how you think you're using whatever it is for the impact you're making. Image laundering is still, for me, the same as money laundering. You stole from people, hard-working people, monies that were earned by them legitimately. You stole from them. In the story, he explained however you end up using it. He tried to explain how he got into the business. He said he had met a friend who was doing well. He saw his nice house and 3 cars, and that was how he got into it. It does not matter how you end up using that money. You stole from people, you broke homes, you destroyed lives.
Yeah, so let's quickly take one more story in the Punch. So Senate on Tuesday resolved to investigate allegations of fake COVID-19 test results to defraud unsuspecting Nigerians in Ghana and the use of fake COVID-19 vaccination cards in Ghana. So according to some Nigerians who are in Ghana currently, they are complaining that they, when they come into Ghana, they carry out the COVID-19, whether they have tested negative for COVID-19 in Nigeria, they tell them they've not tested negative. Then they give them a positive result and put them in isolation centers where they are going to be paying like 70,000 naira every day. And you have to be there for over 2 weeks before you're released. So a particular artist got in and said he tested negative in Nigeria, so there's no way this result is correct. And they threw him out of the country. So he went to America with that same result from Nigeria, and he was tested to be negative. And so the House of Reps are going to investigate Senate are going to investigate what is really happening so that Nigerians are not defrauded in Ghana, basically. Moving on to the Daily Trust. Electoral bill, Senate reps may clash over e-transmission of results. Ghana defrauding Nigerians with fake COVID-19 test results, senators. Military fighter jet bombs fisherman in Borno. Expectations, doubts as Jega, Utomi, others mobilize against APC and PDP. Why movements will fail, lawyers. Present arrangement favors 2 parties, dons. They are not a threat, PDP, APC. 5 killed as security men dispersed Shiites procession in Abuja. Wow. Cashless policy. Court stops CBN's deposit, withdrawal levies. Northern elders, Middle Belt Forum disagree over power shifts. Who has what?
Okay, so I have the Shiite story, and a very sad one again. The Shiites, in their usual, the traditional procession, decided to, occupy Abuja roads, Abuja-Kubwa road, particularly, expressway particularly, and the police came there. According to the police spokesperson, Josephine Ade, they dispersed them with tear gas, but the Shiites group's spokesperson Abdullahi Bello says that no, they dispersed them with bullets, and they have 5 people who were wounded. They took the bodies to the hospital, they found out to the area police clinic in Area 1, and they went there to evacuate their persons and took them to proper hospitals where they were treated. I think this is totally unnecessary after all we've been through in the past. Now, processions have to have backings of law. Let the police know if you need to occupy public facilities for your processions, and so that they give you the protection you need to carry out. We can do things peacefully and legitimately, that's all. Okay,
Miriam, do you have a story here?
Yes, I do. So a suit has been filed by an Anambra State-based legal practitioner. His name is Chijoke Fediora against the CBN, and it's on the levies on deposits and withdrawals made in banks in Anambra, Abia, Lagos, Ogun, Kano, Rivers, and the FCT. So, when you make withdrawals, you make deposits, 2%, sometimes 3% levy is being placed on it. And he's saying he sees this as discriminatory. The Federal High Court agrees with him and says that they also think it is discriminatory because there's nowhere in the Constitution that allows for this. The CBN, in defense, is saying that the policy is not discriminatory, and it's for the well-being of the country, and that the plaintiff did not have any authority of the citizens of this state and corporate institutions to file this, case. But thank God, for me, it says that we see it as discriminatory, and I guess we would hear from here on what would happen. Yeah. I think that it's long overdue for us to have this conversation. Okay,
moving on to the Vanguard. Apapa gridlock. Reps probe persistent conjunctions in nation sports. Sanwo-Olu orders CP to fish out culprits. Bank intensify competition for deposits, raise interest rates by 140%. Hard knocks for northern governors over stand on VAT power shift. Who has what story in the Vanguard?
So the Apapa, just because. So the National Assembly, the Nigerian Senate has spoken, House of Assembly, the Federal House of Reps, I've spoken to the House of Reps Committee on Customs and Excise to carry out comprehensive investigations about the congestion in Apapa, and they also urged the Nigerian Customs to have a speedy process of auctioning containers over 45 days in the port. In the same report, the acting MD of MPA talked about over 6,000 unclaimed containers that litter the ports right now, that these containers have been there for whatever reason. They're lying down, they're asking people to do whatever they need to do to clear their containers. This is what I consider a state of emergency. He said one of the containers 1,800 of these containers are for vehicles alone. I think besides, just lamenting the situation, there are other ways. So you can give discounts, you can give incentives to make people access their goods there. And I'm just worried for goods that have shelf life, those that are consumables that should not even be in the ports for more than a number of days that are there already. In the same report, the governor of Ondo State is asking that they look into the Ondo ports, by dredging and creating the deep sea port in Ondo, which would be a major relief to the Apapa and Tinkan Island experience.
Okay, thank you very much. The last paper for today, that's the Tribune. Reps probe NYSC's advisory on ransom payment to kidnappers. No going back on October 8th nationwide strike, says petroleum tanker drivers. Who has what story here?
So I have the Baba Joshua story.
Okay,
so it's we know that he's in court for the alleged sexual abuse of a minor, and just recently, a child forensic interview specialist, Mrs. Anike Ajayi, gave her own, what's the word that they say? She appears before the court.
Witness.
Yes,
witness.
Yes, and she says that she had taken time to interview the girl, and she could tell that she had gone through abuse. And she says the girl was cooperative, she was calm, she was able to remember that abuse took place twice when she was about 7 years old, and that he had groomed her. And the last time that it happened, he was referring to the last time he was saying, we have unfinished business.
Wow.
And so in her own expert opinion, what happened, as she said, it is true.
Hey, thank you, ladies. That's all we can take on the newspaper reviews. Next, we discuss a hot topic. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Recently, a Yoruba Nollywood actor, Rotimi Salami, waded into the DNA controversies, saying, and I quote, "DNA test is not important unless someone is dragging your child with you." What are your thoughts on this? Join the conversation and call us on 081-270-53687 or 091-390-76948. This DNA matter. Initially it was not in our awareness or consciousness. We've always known over the years that, people mix children. So you come for weddings, you come for burials of a late man, and people are whispering behind that, this one does not look exactly like us. The nose is not like our own. They are not as tall as us. They are not as dark as us. We've always known that it happens in the African setting. But it seems to be becoming rampant now, with a lot of people trying to travel or get some contracts, and then they have to do a test, and they find out that something has been mixed somewhere. But in your thoughts, do you think it's necessary that we go down that lane? Or should we just ignore it and move on? It's life.
If you have any reason to suspect or to question the paternity of your child, and you feel so strongly convinced to go ahead to find out, because maybe it will give you peace of mind, or it will rest, whatever questions there are. Because sometimes the result helps to put things in, to clear doubts. And even it's not always about getting a bad result. Sometimes it's a good result, and then you feel bad for feeling that way about your child. But if you're constantly questioning if a child is yours or not, I think it's only right or only normal that you find out if the child is truly yours. That means you do not have any peace. So it's really for your peace of mind and for the sake of the family. Sometimes even wives will tell you, go ahead and do this. But then, of course, we've heard even on this table that there are consequences for those actions. If you suspect a wife of having cheated, is what you're saying, and bringing a child in that's not yours, and finding out that that child is eventually is yours, then you would have to have that conversation of why you think this happens. I think it's not something you should just get up and want to do, except you have reason or cause. Something comes up in the family. Suspicions, yes.
Auntie? Okay, so Rotimi Salami, I'm a fan, serious fan of him. I love his works, but I totally disagree with him on this. I think it's a loose statement from him, and I think he should consider a lot of other things. So you don't just not trust your wife, talk less of just go and do DNA. There must be grounds for you to do these things. And for some men who just want to do exercise, everybody's doing it, then you're totally accusing an innocent person. But if you've had a relationship where things just didn't look right, the other party too would know. So it's okay for both of you to think, let's do a DNA. What a DNA does is something that I'm totally averse to. A DNA clears the doubts around the child and also ensures, because I'm averse to you giving the child of A to B. A child belongs, and the Quran says they must be called by their father's names. There's no adopting somebody else's child and saying, as long as you're being the parent, the child knows. You can always love that child, but let that child know who their father is. The sanctity of the home or family is extremely important to some people. No matter what the death is, the situation is in a family, let that child know where they belong. You can still say, okay, because I have loved you from birth, you're my child, no matter what, but this is your father. The father can say he doesn't even want to see the child. You will give that child love despite knowing who the child belongs to. That's a different decision. Not to say you have your suspicions, you now want to adopt a child, you don't care because you have been the one who loved the child from birth. I don't agree. I'm averse to that. So a DNA is necessary whenever it is necessary. In every own way it is necessary. It is necessary.
So for me, there are two scenarios here. For some people, it's not like there was any form of suspicion. Everything was going well. They did not suspect you cheated. They did not suspect you mixed children. But because we had to travel, we had to do something, and they are requesting that we need to be sure that these are your children, this comes out. For other people, you've suspected that this person's nose is different from mine. So that's a different occasion. But my question is, what about the mental health of the child? You have always been in a loving relationship with this woman, and you did not have an idea, no inclination that anything happened till you found out, mistakenly, what happens to the mental health of that child? Are you even paying attention to how these children are going to receive this? Because all they have ever known is love between mommy and daddy.
Yeah, it's important to have that at the back of your mind, the mental health of the child, but it's also important to put in that same conversation the mental health of the father that will be finding out that I have raised the child and loved this child, and he actually wasn't mine, biologically mine. I was deceived into, because men are raising children that are not theirs. They know of it, and they're loving that child and giving their all as if that child was biologically theirs. It's the deceit that is the problem. And so sometimes you ask of the adult to make the sacrifice where, okay, you deal with your mental health issues. You and the wife or the mother sort this out and protect that child, maybe for as long as you can, but because we know how the world is, nothing really stays secret forever. Some things come out in future. That child will grow up and trying to do some health issue comes up, and then that conversation starts. So the conversation now, I think, is at what age is the best time to tell a child when you have found out that
you're not the father.
You're not my biological child. There used to be a time I would say here categorically, just never say it, never bring it up, except when health issues come or as adults. But I have seen, recently I've seen some situations that happened where they're already adults, and it messes with your mind seriously.
Even as an adult?
Especially as an adult.
Wow.
Because I'm thinking, as a child, it seems you have the time to grow and understand and recover and start to understand your new dynamics. And then you grow up understanding that. But as an adult, you have built your life on this foundation that you think is the truth. And then all of a sudden, everything is shattered. It takes a long time for people to, you know, get over it. So it's best, really, even if a mother suspects that this, it's best to handle this as early as you can, to give that child time to sort of recover and accept their new reality. That's
I think we
my
need to
opinion.
go on a break. When we come back, we take phone calls and messages. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We have Douglas on the line from Germany. Good morning, Douglas.
Good morning, Obi.
Good morning, sir. You're live,
Well,
sir.
I'm happy you people are discussing this topic because I had some discussions with some people recently and we're talking about this in Nollywood. For me, from my own angle, I don't quite agree with Labi, what is his name? I agree with him. I mean, my agreement is even over his own his stand. Why am I saying this? I mean, in everything we do, we must understand one thing. Anything we do that brings a child to the world, that child that child is not coming to the world in agreement. I mean, there's no consent from the child to come, so we must always protect the child. So, for me, the concept of parenting is not in the context of impregnating a woman, but in the context of nurturing a child. So if we understand this, I mean, for me, I wouldn't like to know if I'm really the biological father. What interests me is taking care of that child. Wow. Now, if I've invested enough time, invested enough love, affection, emotion, and otherwise raising a child, and out of a time somebody comes and tells me it's not my child, what does it change if I'm not the biological father? The love, the affection, the care, all the things I've invested, this counts for me more. Knowing this child, raising the child counts for me more. One other thing is, worldwide I know, once you're married to a woman and a child is born, the owner of that child is the father who married the woman, no matter who the donor of that sperm is. So what counts for me more is that child. And we must always do everything to protect that child. Even if I am the person who is having an affair with a married woman and the child is born, I will do everything to protect that child. I will only come in if I know the child needs me, and I will come from a partial angle.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Thank you for that aspect.
Let's take
some messages.
Biliki says DNA shouldn't become the norm if the relationship was based on trust, except there's a mix-up at the hospital and not decided upon as a result of doubt. Akota says, DNA is not a big deal to me because I must do DNA when I get married and start having children. Not that I don't trust my wife, but for safety because they swap babies at birth. So for me, it's a must for everyone. Bilki says, the reality is that several situations have warranted conducting DNA now for medical reasons to ensure there is no child swapping and to establish the true paternity of a child. I can't imagine having a brother, uncle, or any male relative being given a wrong child or falling for deception. It's not fair at all. People have died discovering such disastrous news several years after being lied to. Unfortunately, we've got to discuss it. Oladizi says, in animal kingdom, when an alpha male emerges in a lion pride, he will first establish his bloodline to avoid future problems. This involves eliminating the existing cubs and young lions in the pride.
Thank God we're not lions.
Oluwaseun says, DNA needs to be done when it's needed. And the other one said, the lesson from nature. That's Oladizi who talked about the lions.
Okay, before I come to you, let me quickly take this call. Perpetual from Agor Palace. Good morning, Perpetual.
Yeah, hello, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
It's my first time calling.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. And please, I really want to say something about this DNA thing. See, there's a lady where we used to stay before. Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, now, there's a lady. There's a lady where we used to stay before. A very churchous lady. And all of a sudden, the baby that she carried, that she gave birth to, we now found out that it wasn't the man's own.
How did you find out?
Okay, I don't know. Somehow, she found out after all the wahalas. The man, the man had to chase her out of the house. So our life became shattered. Oh. So somehow she later found out that the nurse swapped the baby. So out of impulse, she stabbed the nurse to death. So as we speak now, the lady is even at Kirikiri serving. So I don't think to me that DNA. I still believe in the test, but I don't think it is necessary because sometimes it wakes up a can of worms. So that's my own opinion.
Thank you so much, Perpetua.
Perpetua, let me quickly respond. Issues are different from the reactions that they bring. So the man probably didn't handle his own well. If you don't doubt your wife, but you had to do a DNA because you didn't think that a child looked like, or imagine a medical situation occurring to a child that you don't have and your wife doesn't have. It will be because the child was swapped. So you sue the hospital and you do what other people have done in history. Find your child and bring your child back. I heard a story in the UK of a 22-year-old. She was 22 at the time the family found the baby. They never had, the mother breastfed another baby. And after 22 years, she was able to find her own child. So you can do that. You can do whatever it takes to get your child. What I don't support is have another person's child. You know, in the South, in some Southern cultures, when a woman comes pregnant to another man's house who marries her, no matter the age of the pregnancy at the time of the wedding, the child belongs to the man who married the woman, even though he's not the biological father. But in the Southwest, in Yoruba land, you want to find your father, right? Yes. A child belongs to the... So that's African. But in Islam, a child belongs to the father. A child that is illegitimate belongs to the mother. Oh. So there are ways these issues are sorted out so that you don't cause unnecessary rancor or disturbances in the child's life. What a child knows the situation, you then go on counseling the child. There are reassurances you can give a child that, yes, in my bloodline, you are not my child, but I love you despite that. And if the child is confident enough in that reassurance, there won't be a problem. But we fear problems as if they don't have solutions. I don't agree.
Okay, we have a caller from Lithuania. I didn't get the name. Good morning, sir.
Lithuania.
Yeah, my name is
Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Yeah, I am quite interested in this topic. There is something I would like to just chip in. You know, we are Africans. And at the same time, we are all humans, you know. When it comes to DNA, it plays a very huge role in a child's life, talking about health issues. So it is important for the parents to know who is the actual father. It has nothing to do with love, because when you love a child, whether you are the biological father or not, you will nurture that child to the best of your ability. Now, what do we say about gays that are adopting children? Let us not try to deceive ourselves with the culture that this thing is not important, when at the end of the day, it will cause a very big problem, not only for the child, but also for the man. Because if tomorrow now, at a certain age, you find out that it's not your own, it shelters you. But when you are able to know in time, you can determine, have a discussion with the person. Sometimes it happens accidentally. Sometimes it is act of destiny that these things happen. The love you have for your child, whether it's your biological child or not, does not change. But what changes is we humans. There are people that even if they find out it's their child, they will still not have that love. If they don't find out, they will still not have that love. So
thank you so much, Mr. Chris. We have another caller, Mustafa from Ikeja. Good morning, Mustafa.
Morning, madam.
Good morning, sir. Yeah. Go ahead, sir. You're live.
Okay. My take on DNA test is that actually when the data arrives, DNA must be done because there's need for sincerity in parenting. You understand? Because what is finding out is the mother of a child. But in the case where there is swap, there's need for DNA. So if there's a union between a man and a woman, and there's a child, there's a unit of the families in between, there's need for sincerity of knowing who the parent actually is when there is doubt. That helps the child, that helps the father, and helps the mother. But does not stop the father from loving the child. If actually, in his own spirit and his own thinking, he has accepted the child to be his own. That's now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mustafa. But there's we saw online that there was a clinic opening in Lekki area, and they were giving about 75% discount for DNA. And before they could say Jack, over 100,000 people have registered. And I'm asking, how are we not sure that a lot of people are just taking advantage of this too? Let me just try. Not like this, we're suspicious or anything happened. Why do we have to go down this route?
Yeah, I think that is why we have the conversation of just don't do it for doing sake. Oh, it's trending now. But the thing is, we have spoken about this DNA issue so often at this table. And the reason we're talking about it is because Nigerians are talking about it. So it's become something that is on the lips of everyone. People are hearing other people's story and they're questioning like, oh, who do I trust now? And so when an opportunity of a 75% discount, because we know how expensive this can be, people are like, okay, maybe I should use the opportunity
To do
so
this.
now I think...
However, that 100,000 is, you know, just
so
social media. We're not sure. Yeah.
So I think what people are saying is, this is a slippery slope you're about to embark on. Don't start something you may not be able to finish or you may not be able to handle. If you have no suspicions, if you're happy, everything is going on well, just face your family and move on. Don't just jump on the bandwagon because
Everybody's
it's available.
doing
because there are emotional, mental, you know, factors to this that you may not be able to, you know, figure out. So I think that's one part. But, you know, we always also think about DNA only in the terms of paternity fraud. A lot of, we have had callers now on social media that have opened their eyes to the fact that children are being swapped. Now, for me, I think that is one of the reasons we should have DNA, because I just cannot imagine the pain of, because once you raise the child, you realize the child that you have is not yours, you just constantly have that pain of where is your own child? Who is raising your child? Especially if maybe you are of a person of certain means and you're thinking, is that child getting the sort of nurturing love, attention and material things that I can afford my child? Who has my child? And that will constantly be in your mind. And I think it's important because I've seen stories where parents will eventually find their children, but their children are unwilling to come to them because this, as far as they are concerned, is their family. That's the family that they know. So for me, that would be the only reason you just step out and do it. And then in that case, you have to do it quickly and early.
Let's take a breather. The conversation continues after this break. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. I would like to ask, what are some other reasons why people may need to have DNA? Because aside from the fact that you're suspecting this is not mine, or you're about traveling and you needed to do the DNA, I've had cases where a child is, you know, trying to find out who the father is, and the mother is saying, I can't tell you, I've moved on, let's not have this conversation. Are they the reasons why you can decide to, okay, let me go ahead and take a DNA? How do you get the samples? What are some other reasons, really, that we can look for this DNA?
So this is my take. If you feel that somebody, or you're told by somebody, not necessarily your mother, in some cases you found out from close family friends that this is who is suspected to be your father. If your mother ever opened up to anyone in the family, but she's unwilling to look into the matter further because of pain, or so other circumstances surrounding it, you can have a DNA. You can, you know, sue the person for abandonment as your father, which forces him by court order to do a DNA. To say, okay, establish I am not your father. It can't just be by words of mouth. If you can show...
That's if you know him.
Yes. And you can request, you know, approaching him and asking a DNA, he might just be unwilling to grant it. So a court order can force him that, okay, let's know, are you the father or not? And even after it's established that he's the father, you don't have to, as long as you're an adult, force anything anymore in the relationship, except you're an underage. So there are different ways you can request DNAs. In paternity issues, in child custody issues, a lot of times in the courts, you find the courts compelling DNA is that maybe the mother is now, some women would just throw the defense, okay, it's not your child, can I just go with this child? And so the father will say, no, you can't just say it's not my child. You had this child while we're married, I have reasons to suspect this child belongs to me, to believe that the child belongs to me, so they will compel, the court will compel a DNA. So there are different other ways why DNA is done. For whatever reason it is needed, let it be done. Some people would rather that they don't open a can of worms, like they call it. Yeah. But I think that's living in doubt. It's even worse. Imagine you living in doubt for, let's say the child for 40 years, and the father had this suspicion. The suspicion informs, you know, how he leaves a testament. I know a father who has a child. The child presently is almost 60 years, and he disowned that child.
Let's take this call. Isom from the UK. I'll come back to you. Good morning, Isom.
Hello, good morning, Obi.
Good morning.
Yeah, I just have this contribution to make. I'm a lady, a married woman. I have a son now, and if my husband actually wants to do a DNA, I don't mind. Even though my son looks exactly like my husband. But when we talk about DNA, the question is, why do you want to know? Is it because you want to love the child less? Or because you want to abandon the child? Or you just want to find out that your wife is cheating on you? Because if you say you want to do a DNA test, you must have a reason for it. It's not enough to do a DNA test because you just want to know. Why do you want to know? You know, so sometimes when we try to do some of these things, what's the motive? Because even if somebody comes tomorrow to tell the child that the child is not yours, if the child is lost, better, or for me, I don't think it matters because the child didn't be brought into this world. And secondly, we're talking about swapping children in hospitals. I don't know how that works. But is there no other way we can go about this thing? Is there no way of having another person to be with the mother when the mother is having the baby? Take a picture of your child and then do it.
To find a way to protect ourselves. Thank you so much, Isom. Miriam, your final thoughts for wrapping up.
I know there are other reasons too that people push for for DNA that I find quite insulting and annoying. Where there's like a family disagreement, property, the patriarch of the home has passed on, and all of a sudden people are being pointed at and saying, you are not the child. The patriarch, the father did not question the paternity of his child. The father may have known or may have not have known, but has accepted to raise this child as their own. And then when it now comes to sharing property, someone from outside, a cousin, a brother, or someone, all of a sudden says, well, we don't even know if you are. So my question is, when you go to get this DNA, is the clinic morally obligated legally to ask the reason why you're doing it? And is it just enough for someone to just wake up one day and say, you know what, I just need to go and check if you're my brother, if you're my sister or not? Or if that person has the right to, you know, ask for a cease and desist, you cannot take that on me. Or else everyone will be taking DNA on people just anyhow. Because
I can take DNA on you now.
75% is free. It's almost free. Let us go. So those are the reasons why I feel there's some reasons that are unethical, you know, immoral, why we should push for DNA. But what I also think is important for a society and as a government as a whole is, if there's a question of child swapping, if we do have DNA, we'll have data. And then we're able to even trace, because we see in other countries where they're able to trace a certain nurse in the 1970s who was in a particular hospital, and her job was to just swap children. So those sort of things are important.
After how
so
many
those are
years?
the sort of ways I would say, okay, it's important that, you know, we know if that sort of fraud or scam is carried out.
Yeah, but if I hear you correctly, you're saying, is there any way that we can protect human rights while we go for this DNA?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for your contribution, ladies. That's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, we move on to other topics. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Recently, the Central Bank of Nigeria introduced the E-naira, which will be launched on October 1st officially. However, The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has told financial institutions in the country that the E-naira is not a subtle scheme to take away bank customers. It is said the plan is to grant access to more financially excluded people. Joining us on the show is the Director, Payment Systems Management Department at the Central Bank of Nigeria, Musa Jimo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing today, sir?
Well, I'm fine. Very fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I would like you to give us a breakdown of what the E-naira is for a better understanding.
Okay, thank you very much. E-naira is the electronic representation of our physical naira. We all have the paper naira, the cash that we all, hold, the coins and all that.
Okay.
The electronic representation of that naira is called the E-naira.
Okay.
And it's issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria and is a legal tender. In a very simple term, that's the definition.
Okay, so how are we expected to use the E-naira? So are we supposed to, for instance, now we have the physical naira and then we do transactions online. So with this E-naira, do we just go ahead and keep it in which bank? How do we do the transactions? How does it work exactly, sir? Okay.
Thank you very much. It's very simple, especially for those who are already using banking services, the electronic services, those that are already doing, electronic transfer, doing online banking. It's going to be very, very simple, and basically it's a simple process. The central bank is the central issuing authority of the E-naira. In other words, the central bank will mint the E-naira electronically. No physical paper or coins is involved. Then the banks will distribute to its existing customers. For those that are not already banked, they will walk into any bank branch or any authorized agent, for guidance on how to acquire the E-naira and get, subscribed onto the platform. So basically, for you and I, who are customers of the bank, what we'll do come October 1st is to download the wallet. The wallet, is to download the app. The app basically is a software that you find in the stores, online stores, either a Google Play for Android user or Apple iOS, the app world. So once you download it onto your phone, it's very simple to go through the registration and activation process where you select your existing bank. Like I said, we are starting with customers who are already banked. So you select your existing bank from the app and provide certain information, your name, your BVN, your email, your telephone number, all of that. You provide it and then you start and by sending it to your bank. And then your bank will do a background check, a KYC, your customer kind of verification, and then a wallet is created for you, similar to the bank account that you have. But the difference now is that this wallet is sitting outside of the bank. It's actually sitting on the system that is being operated by the central bank, called the E-naira platform. And so the next thing is for you to fund it, to put money into that wallet that has been created for you. You also do the same by going through the same app, and requesting for your account to be funded. It's a very simple instruction for anybody who have used application, anybody who, for example, knows how to do WhatsApp, all these applications and all that, you will be able to follow all the instructions. So you go into the app and select your bank again and ask your bank to debit your account of certain amount and credit your E-naira wallet. And so a funds transfer happens where the bank will debit your account and then E-naira is transferred to your wallet. So in this case, the role of the commercial bank is basically to help distribute the E-naira. And I'm saying this because I want us to know the difference that central bank is not competing with the commercial banks. We will be responsible for the central minting and the issuance of the E-naira to the banks, and the banks will distribute to the customers. So it's an ecosystem where
Thank you, sir.
all the major actors participate.
Hold on, sir. My only concern is how does this affect the present volatility of the Naira? Nigerians need some measures that would at least stabilize or even better raise the value of the Naira as it is now. What advantage is the E-naira bringing? Is it going to make Naira more available so that, eventually we'll get to that point where we don't have to dollarize economy anymore and things will become better for the poor man?
Okay, E-naira and the physical Naira is 1-to-1. The parity of value is same, is 1-to-1. If you hold one E-naira, it's the same as your physical 1 naira. There is no exchange, there is no arbitrage, for acquiring E-naira. It's basically providing an alternative means by which you can pay in a more secured manner and increasing the velocity of money, basically making electronic transaction more pervasive, activating commercial activities and stimulating growth. But the overarching objective basically is to also bring the underserved, those that are not within the financial sector now, providing them the means by which they can also join the financial system and become banked and, making them much, much better in terms of the quality of life that they live. So it's a whole, gamut of different actors, different players, different beneficiaries. But eventually, all Nigerians are welcome to the platform. I mean, everyone would benefit once you hold an E-naira. It has the same value as your Naira, but in this time, it is an electronic form, and you can use it to buy, you can use it to pay for goods and services. There is no exchange rate. It's 1-to-1.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Jimoh, I'm a layman. Please, on behalf of all lay people, help explain this. If e-money is just an electronic representation of paper money, the money I have in my bank, in the bank app, is already that. Why then do I need this e-money? And then the acceptance level, this is Nigeria we're talking about. Just changing one note to another and asking Nigeria to use it, it took a long time. The Nigerians we're talking about, the majority of Nigerians, is this not a little too complex, too techy, too scientific-y for a layperson like me? Sir, please explain to us.
Okay. For me, the mere fact that you already have a bank account, I will even regard you as a layman because it means you know how to hold device, you know how to do transfer. At the very least, you know how to use USSD instruction or system to make transfer. So you are using your phone to activate electronic transaction. I won't regard you as a layman. We're just providing an alternative channel, alternative means of payment. But beyond that, it's going to offer a lot of advantage to the Nigerians. One of the major challenges that we face in financial inclusion is the fact that people complain that the cost of financial services is too high. That cost of banking, cost of doing electronic transaction is too high, which is why a lot of people may even decide to keep their money in their home or keep it as cash and do, the transactions.
Okay.
And so one of the objectives of this is to see how we can bring down the cost of financial services.
Okay.
To mint money, the physical cash that we have, to mint it today, it costs us money. It costs a lot of money to mint money. So every time you mint money, you are spending. Okay. And all of this, when you mint that money, the money is distributed to the commercial banks. There is a cost for conveying the cash to the banks. And then the money is being dispensed and given to people, and we use it, and eventually it gets dirty, and we return it again to the central bank for destruction. It also costs money. So if you look at the entire cash management value chain, it costs so much. And that cost is what translates to the high cost of financial services. Now, with digitalization and the issuance of the electronic money, all these costs will be completely eliminated. The minting of E-naira is electronic. The distribution of E-naira is electronic. The spending is electronic. It never gets dirty. And if at all we want to destroy, it is destroyed electronically. So the overall cost of industry to serve will actually come down. And this is what is going to translate into the benefit that the consumers will get by low cost of financial services. So ultimately, you are going to see that the cost of using E-naira to do P2P, P2G, government to person, person to government, business, and all that will come down drastically. And because it's a legal tender, it's accessible everywhere.
Director Jimoh, we know that the banking system in Nigeria is notorious for indiscriminate charges. What are the charges one can accrue from using the platform? Or does it come at no charge?
Okay, once you have your E-naira, if we do funds-to-funds transfer, it doesn't cost you anything. It's zero. So if you have E-naira wallet and I have E-naira wallet, you do your transfer, it's zero. It's completely zero. It doesn't attract any charge. Yes.
What about networks? So we have a problem with our network system. We have a problem with our network system.
Well,
yes. Did you people put that into consideration?
Yes, we put that, and that's why, one of the major considerations in the design is to cater for the unbanked, the people in rural communities where you don't have constant power supply, where you don't have high network availability and all that. So offline option is going to be provided, where you can actually make your payment when there is no network. But beyond that, the resilience of the system upon which this system will run is very, very high. It's actually running on the technology that they call blockchain, which makes it very secured and quite distributed. In other words, you don't have one point of failure. It will take a lot. In fact, availability can actually be, regarded as 99.999%, almost 100%. I mean, we are leaving the remaining one just because, of course, if it's electronic, anything can fail. But it's going to be highly available because of the technology upon which this system is going to run. So there are a lot of advantages that we may not see now. I recall that when we started electronic payment in this country, it was this, fear of how will adoption take place and all that. For example, at a point in this country, merchants were skeptical about using POS to accept payment. But today, you hardly go to any shop that you don't see POS terminal. Everybody has POS terminal to accept payment. Everybody is using cards. We're all using USSD and using our phones to make payment. That is how the adoption will also come. At the initial stage, we don't expect all Nigerians to key in and all that. It's going to be gradual, which is why we're also using a phased approach. We're not asking everybody to join at the same time. We're bringing people on board gradually so that when it becomes more pervasive, users themselves we opt for E-naira. We don't have to force anybody for E-naira. You see the benefit and you take it.
Thank you, Director Jimo. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, the conversation continues. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Welcome back. So joining us in the studio is Victor Anilaju, who is the founder and CEO of ePay, an electronic payment solutions provider, the brain behind the welfare card, a payment card for the less privileged. Welcome, Mr. Victor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm sure you heard the conversation earlier on.
Yeah, I did. I
did. What do you think about the E-naira?
Okay. So, thank you for having me. Nice being here today, seated among beautiful ladies. Right. What I want to say is this is not what we expected from CBN.
Oh.
This is not what... In fact, CBN want to take over our business. What they are offering us now is what we are already doing. We thought we were going to see something different from what is already in place. So that's just my own personal thought, because I already know what is going on. And I know that as of today, what they are offering, all banks, majority of the payment solution offer same. Our own ePay platform offer same. All banks, just like you were asking, your bank already gives you that app that you can use, do your electronic transactions, pay your bill, transfer money, and so on and so forth.
What you offer is not different from what they're asking, because what they're saying is they want to give us an equivalent of Naira on internet, E-naira. But what you're giving us is app payment solution. So I can choose to want to pay dollar and you can provide that.
Yep.
But what CBN is dealing with is exclusively Naira. Is that not what they're saying?
So which even makes it more even looking like they are going backward.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like they're going backward, because how do I get to load my E-naira? It's still from my bank account.
Okay.
I heard him say it's for them to reach their bank. That's not true. The E-naira requires you to have a BVN. And if you don't have a bank account, you can't have a BVN. Do you understand what I'm saying? To me, let me just say it the way it is. I just feel some people needed to make money from this country and set up another existing platform. Just let them tell us how much they used to set it up.
Mr. Jima, can you hear that, sir?
So we will now know, or tell us something.
I hear Victor very well.
Let them tell us something different. And before I leave here, I want to say what I thought as an expert in the electronic payment, what I've been there for the past 15 years. Right? What I was expecting to see from CBN was something equivalent to the Bitcoin.
Is this not what it is?
It's not what it is.
Can you respond to this, sir, Mr. Jimo?
Well, I heard Victor, and basically what I see is that he hasn't got a full gist of what a central bank digital currency is. We call it E-naira, but the concept basically is a central bank digital currency. And the objective is, basically to digitize your currency. Yes, what you have in banking, in your banking system today, you can pay, you already have your money there. The liability of the money you have is with the commercial banks. The naira you have in your pocket today, the physical naira you have in your pocket today, the liability is actually on the central bank. And it is the electronic form of it that we're bringing out. Central bank is still charged with the responsibility of minting and issuing naira. We are doing the electronic copy. And that's why I said the banks will still distribute it. You have a ledger, you have a blockchain, you have a distributed system that we use to keep that money with you, with the central bank. Basically to manage a central point of issuance, and then for the distribution with the commercial banks. So if you talk about on the banks and say, oh, those who do not have BVN will not be catered for, in our three-tiered KYC, if you have read it, Victor, you realize that Tier 1 does not require BVN. As we are today, you don't need to have a BVN to open a bank account. The requirement is for you to have a phone. Once you have a phone that has been verified with your NIN, you can open a bank account. So you actually don't need a BVN to open a bank account.
Which bank?
Every bank.
Wow.
If you have a phone, once you have a phone, an active phone, you can walk into any bank or a mobile money operator and open a Tier 1 account.
Tier 1?
Tier 1 account does not require a BVN. Yes, it doesn't require a BVN.
But it's limited.
Tier 1 basically is because we haven't done full KYC on you, so we limit the transactions that you can do, and we also limit the amount of money that you can keep because we don't have a complete background about you. But at least you have been brought into the financial system.
Okay. So I wanted to ask earlier before we went on the break, what guarantees do you have for data security? Because internet, that's what my layman understands. I don't want you to be like one body who told us they were backing up our data on the clouds in another country. So what exactly are you giving? What's the data security for this platform, for this application?
Well, the data security basically is about the cryptographic system that is used to wrap the data. That is very, very difficult for anybody to crack in. That's basically, and then the fact that it's running on a distributed system where the central base is not concentrated. So the risk of concentration has been taken away, of having your data in one place, where when that system is hacked or destroyed, you lose everything. Your data is replicated across several nodes in the world. And so that's why it's a cloud thing, because you don't have the data in one place. Yeah, basically. So it's spread across, and the encryption mechanism to make sure that nobody can eavesdrop or break into your data or your privacy is so high with the kind of technology used.
What do you have to say, Mr. Victor?
I'm sure Victor understands what I'm saying.
Do you understand, sir?
I have an understanding of cryptocurrency.
Okay.
I have an understanding of digital banking system.
Okay.
And the question we should be asking, what is the difference of E-naira to the day-to-day digital banking system? Which is, there is no difference. There is no difference. Ask anybody, pay money, receive money, transfer money, pay for items. We have been doing that. So that's why I'm shocked. Like, I think CBN need to really have a team of think tank young people that will help them create something that is widely acceptable, if not globally, but all over Africa. That's just part of what we expected. And something that will be the future Nigerian currency or the future African currency. That's what we were expecting. As we speak today, a Bitcoin is over $40,000 to a Bitcoin. And in 2009, when Bitcoin started, Bitcoin was just about 8 cents. Are you hearing what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
It was just about 8 cents. So every year, as the time is going, it keeps increasing, and they are making money. That was what we were expecting to see from CBN.
To give us a form of our own Bitcoin?
Yes. Oh. That can be acceptable, if not globally, but in Africa. Especially now that we now have these trade-free agreements with African countries. So we expect CBN to have gone ahead as a think tank institution to create that currency and bring it back to Africa and say, okay, let's start using this.
This is our own.
This is our own. That was what we were expecting. You just brought us an e-wallet. The first time I created an e-wallet was 2007. It's like you are taking us...
As an individual?
As an individual, which I created from inside my father's house. So you are taking us back. To me, I want to advise, if CBN, they can hear, just pipe low, get experts like myself and the likes of, you can go to Abeg, you can go to Paystack, get some
those young guys.
Those young guys, put them together and let's discuss. We will come out with something Nigeria,
befitting Nigeria
and something that can be acceptable all over Africa. Because you know what I'm saying is, our currency is going down.
Yes, it is.
When we heard that CBN was going to come up with this, we thought that CBN was going to come up with something.
That will give us hope.
That will give us hope. So if you are going to create another currency, let's say cryptocurrency, it's supposed to have a higher value. Right? So that as our currency is going down, you are systematically migrating us or shifting us into that currency that have a more higher value, which is what Bitcoin is about doing. In time to come in the future, you might not have a physical currency. Most persons would have migrated to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin moves that the more the demand, the more the value increases. That's what we should be looking at doing for Africa, not giving us another...
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay,
Miriam has a question.
So, like you too, even before it was announced, I thought the CBN was going the way of cryptocurrency. I make fun of it every time I say, oh, the CBN banned cryptocurrency so they can bring out their own version. So it seems that that is not the case. And also, the way you have explained it to me, it seems as if this particular e-money is supposed to bypass banks. So in order for us to, not pay those charges. Okay, so the advantage that I'm seeing, or the benefits I'm seeing, is that you would not pay all those levies and charges. Like today we took the 2%, the 3%, because we'll be dealing directly with CBN in this case. Is that what it is? Because that is what I'm getting. That's the only benefit I'm seeing.
No.
I would like,
banks.
yes, I would like Mr. Jimo to respond to this, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. First, let me clarify the ambiguity that Victor is trying to create there, and I think he'll be patient enough to listen to me. E-naira, which is the central bank digital currency, is not a cryptocurrency. There are two different things. I know, there are so many terms that are used in the public: cryptocurrency, virtual currency, digital currency, and all of that. This one is a central bank digital currency, a currency that is by a monetary authority. It has the sovereignty of Nigeria. Unlike cryptocurrency, like the Bitcoin and Ethereum, that do not have ownership. People just come together in a group and they create a network and they create the coin. And it's not backed by any asset. And it's, the price changes due to the vagaries of even individuals. If, for example, and someone goes to Twitter today and says, oh, okay, like Jeff Bezos goes to Twitter today and says, oh, I'm not going to be accepting cryptocurrency to buy anything on Amazon again. The cost of cryptocurrency will come. When China says we are banning cryptocurrency, you know, in the whole of China and all that, cryptocurrency coins, the price will crash. So that one, the price changes due to the vagaries of individuals. It's not backed by any asset. That's not what we are doing. And we're not competing with cryptocurrency. That is a different network. We're talking about currency that is backed by the monetary authority of any country, that you know the country that has issued it and therefore acceptable. In terms of usage, which you mentioned, the diaspora, you know, remittances and cross-border remittances, that is a use case that will bring itself online as you know, acceptance within the country and other countries come to being. There is actually a project that is going on now, which is the Pan-Africa Payment and Settlement System. And basically the objective is to allow all African countries to be able to interject, to buy and sell and, you know, do currency exchange without going through the vagaries of dollars. So I should be able to spend my Naira to pay someone in Ghana, for example, and somebody in Ghana should be able to spend his cedis to pay somebody in Nigeria. There is that project that is going on. And we're going to leverage on this CBDC to be able to do that. Ghana is also working on CBDC. By the time all of the African countries have implemented CBDC, all of us will simply, you know, simply integrate, and then transactions can continue to happen. And therefore, the fluctuation that our currency, you know, is faced now, which makes our currency, you know, go up and down and all that, will be reduced because, you know, if I will just bind everything that I need with Naira, I don't need to seek for dollars again. So the pressure on dollars to pay for goods and services across the shore will go down. That's basically the objective, in addition to the financial inclusion objective that I also enumerated.
Yeah, please, could you answer what I was saying about bypassing banks and dealing directly with CBN?
Well, yes. Technically, because the wallet you create is on the CBN system, but you're not bypassing banks because you still be doing your transaction through the banks. You can transfer your E-naira to a bank account. You can bring your bank account to an E-naira. It all depends on which channel is safe for me, which one is convenient for me, where do I pay more, where do I pay less, which one has speed, which one is available. Creating alternative means of payment is not something that is bad for the economy. We're just making our payment system more pervasive and more acceptable. So introducing a central bank digital currency where central bank will stop or to a certain degree reduce the minting of physical Naira, you know, creates an economic benefit to the country. And that's what we want to basically translate to the benefit that users will get when they use E-naira, because cost of transaction will go down.
Go ahead, Nima.
So there are a lot of comments online. So I think people got you clear when you said E-naira wasn't the same as cryptocurrency. But why don't we have a Nigerian version of the cryptocurrency is what most of our viewers are asking.
No, we can. Cryptocurrency is not issued by any government. No government issues cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency are individual implementation. They are individual implementation. Nobody issues it. Our own is the central bank digital currency.
Mr. Victor.
Yes. The technology behind it is what makes the similarity, because, you know, both technology will use cryptography to wrap the transaction so that it is very hard to crack. And then you place the database on a distributed ledger so that you don't have one point of failure. Yeah. But the issuance and the objectives are different. A central bank digital currency or any central bank digital currency, apart from Nigeria E-naira, has the backing of the country. It is your Naira. It is a legal tender. It is your Naira you are holding in electronic form. I don't know who the founder, I mean, of course, we have a pseudonym called Satoshi Nakamoto, but you don't know which country, where the coin is being minted from. You don't have any consumer protection to it. If you lose your Bitcoin today, please tell me which government or which country or which authority are you going to report to? If you have any issue with Bitcoin, tell me. You don't have that protection, but your E-naira is the liability of E-naira is on the Central Bank of Nigeria. And so if anything happens to your E-naira, it is central bank's money that we're talking about. And therefore, consumer protection is provided, which is why we are working with banks to also provide support. It's the money that will be flowing within the banking industry in tandem with, you know, the system that we also have in the CBN. So it's an ecosystem. We're not detaching the banks. We're just using the banks as the partner for the distribution, because even as we are today, you don't go to CBN and say, CBN, please, I want to withdraw money, give me Naira. You have to go to your bank. Banks are the institution that we use for the distribution of our physical Naira. And so we're also using them for the distribution of the electronic Naira.
Thank you, Mr. Jimo.
It's about introducing another channel that makes it very convenient for Nigerians.
Okay, I'll let Mr. Victor respond. We are wrapping up now.
Okay. Wow. So what I want to see here, these are my expectations from CBN. Number one, our Naira is going down. You have to invent any other currency. It should be to strengthen our currency. And with what he had just explained, it's what banks are already doing. I hate to repeat that, so that Nigerians will know. But to me, an undertone of it is like, I think there is an agenda to take over banks from private individuals to government. And if I'm lying, they should prove it wrong. Because with what we are seeing right now, we know the next step will not be that every online transaction will be done by the E-naira.
Are you preempting them?
I'm saying it because I see no reason why the E-naira was established in the first place.
Okay, so maybe that's a challenge. I have another question. Maybe Mr. Jimo can answer.
I see no reason.
Add to this.
Very short question.
Yes, so to add to this, I think Mr. Jimo may want to respond to that, which is, if we're still going to use the banks would normally just have their charges. So that no charge may not work if the banks are involved. That's one.
100%.
Secondly, if it's Naira to Naira, physical Naira to e-money, exactly the same value, how do you make sure people like me will be thinking then there's no need to get in? So are there measures, are there ways to incentivize people to get on that platform
and use the E-naira?
The E-naira.
A brief response, sir. Mr. Jimo.
Yes, thank you very much. Again, let me reiterate that your own E-naira is equal to your physical Naira. There is no arbitrage, there is no exchange rate. So what you are holding is like your physical Naira that you have in your pocket. That's basically it. Yeah. The banks are under the supervisory control of the central bank. And so, we work together to drive regulation, including even, limiting the fees that the banks charge. Because, we're a nation driving financial inclusion where we want to bring a lot of people into the financial sector. So cost is a major deterrent, and that's why we are working on how we can bring down cost. One of the cardinal objectives of the cashless policy, which we launched in 2012, is also to see how we can digitize our Naira and have more of electronic transactions and all that. Again, central bank has not taken the intermediation responsibility of the banks, and I'm sure that's what Victor wanted me to say. Banks will still continue to disintermediate. They will continue to perform their roles. We're not taking that responsibility from them, which was why we'd never make sure that central bank is the one distributing the Naira to the individual. The banks will be the one that will continue to do the distribution. So it's an ecosystem, a symbiotic relationship between the commercial bank and the central bank to see that this digital Naira, which is E-naira, is issued as we used to issue the physical one and distributed through the banks. The banks will still continue to have their roles. And that's why, like I said, we'll get to a point where people will see the benefit and they themselves will come and say, I need E-naira.
Thank you, Mr.
Because that
Jimo.
we used to get to a point, for example, okay, let me just finish this talk. There was a time in this country where a lot of people, never had the opportunity of using their phones to make electronic transactions. You have to walk to a physical branch. In fact, a point where you can only do your transaction from the branch where you open your account. Digitalization, innovation has brought us to where we are today, and innovation continues. So as somebody who calls himself an e-payment expert, I expect that he would have done some research on what a central bank digital currency is.
All right, Mr. Victor, can you quickly respond to this? We have to go.
Sir, before I came up here, I've gone through it. I even went through my own particular bank to know how it works with bank. But there is still no difference. From what you just said, there is still
You still don't see any difference?
There is no difference. The only undertone I'm seeing about it is, it's like a referee wearing the jersey of a player to play game. That's what I'm seeing here. Because what you are offering us, our banks already are giving us those offers. So I thought he would have been able to tell us this is the difference between your bank digital transactions and the E-naira. But my expectation is what will happen to our Naira in the future. We needed to see a new currency from CBN.
Thank you so much.
In the future will give us a better value.
Thank you so much, Mr. Victor. Thank you so much, Mr. Jimo. I think the CBN needs a lot of information to go out there
they need
to convince
the young
Nigerians to adopt this E-naira. And thank God we have E-naira right now. That's all we can take for today. Join us tomorrow. Bye-bye.